This video is sponsored by PCBWay. Welcome everyone. In this video I show you the practical implementation of the PCBWay badge that I designed in the previous video. If you missed that video, then in a nutshell this is a PCB that has been drawn by another electronics enthusiast, and I got the task to make the graphics into a working circuit. In the previous video I explained how I went from the graphics to a PCB design that I can send to PCBWay for manufacturing, and in this video I present you the badge that I received from PCBWay. The design turned out exactly as I imagined. Shiny black PCB with exposed golden graphical elements and white silk screen. The backside also meets the expectations. Both the original designer's name and my website is written on the board with a golden color, and they stand out nicely on the shiny black PCB. The white silk screen and the curved traces also give a nice touch to the overall design. As I showed in the previous video when ordering the PCB, I requested to remove the order number from the PCB, so everything looks neat and only the necessary things are on the PCB. One perhaps debatable decision is that I made the board 50 mm in diameter. I wanted it to be nearly coin-sized. As a reference, I put some Swedish, American and European coins next to it so you can see how big it is. It is not too much larger, which I think is nice, since the goal was to implement a badge and not a dish. However, this led to the fact that the LEDs in the center of the board had to be 0402 SMD LEDs, and the years had to be written with a rather small font size. In order to use 0603 LEDs and print a larger text in the middle, the board's diameter should have been 80 mm, which is more than 50% larger than this board. In my opinion, that size is a bit too big for a badge. Since the dates are still readable and the main attraction is the flashing lights anyway, I think this is an acceptable compromise. But let me know what you think in the comments. Taking a closer look on the backside, I used a simple two-way switch to cut the power between the battery and the rest of the circuit. The switch cuts the positive rail. Then the board has the 11 resistors and the microcontroller. The resistors are 0603 size, so one can easily hand solder them if needed, and the microcontroller is also large enough for being hand soldered. If you look at the board carefully, you can discover that I made a mistake in the design. I was not careful enough and blindly accepted the polarities that came with the component's footprint in KiCad, so I managed to connect the positive terminal of the battery to the negative rail of the circuit, while the battery's negative pole is not connected to the circuit at all. So I will do a little surgery to fix this issue, but of course the shared circuit on my PCBWay project page does not contain this mistake. Speaking of PCBWay, if you want this badge, head over to my PCBWay project page and place an order on it. Or if you have your own project, don't hesitate to upload your Gerber file and place an order. Not only that, you can customize your board to a large extent using different colors or even color printing, but you get a high quality board super fast and for a cheap price. And apart from PCB related services, they also offer 3D printing and other processes such as CNC machining or sheet metal fabrication. So go to PCBWay.com and get your next project done using their services. So even though one design mistake slipped through, I did not want to risk ordering a PCB that is absolutely inoperable. Therefore, before ordering this PCB, I actually assembled the circuit I drew in KiCad on a breadboard. Same resistor values, same 80 tiny 85 microcontroller, and a similar 2032 coin cell battery as a power source. Not only that I could test the circuit itself, but I could also test if the code I received worked properly. As you can see, it turned out well, and it blinks as expected. Since the microcontroller has less GPIO pins than there are LEDs on the board, the LEDs have to light up in groups. Since this microcontroller was suggested by the design I received, I just went with it, but a different 80 tiny microcontroller or a much cheaper CH32 microcontroller would have been enough to drive all the LEDs independently. Since the board is round, I had to use some tricky arrangements so I can use the stencil to spread the solder paste over the tabs for the LEDs. I formed a wedge shape using two PCBs and then aligned the board and the stencil so they overlap properly. Then I carefully spread the solder paste over the tabs of the 11 0402 LEDs. The 0402 size is borderline for me. It is still doable, but it can be difficult if the board is very crowded. After placing all the components, I use the hot air gun to heat the board and melt the solder paste. One worth noticing thing is that due to the nature of the board, I have the vials in the pads of the LEDs. These vials can suck in some of the solder during the soldering, which might lead to insufficient contacts between the pad and the LED. So before I proceeded to the backside of the board, I made sure that all the LEDs are in a good contact with their tabs. Where it was necessary, I added a tiny blob of solder and melted it again. Then I proceeded to the backside. Since I already had the LEDs soldered on the front side, I had to somehow lift the board so I do not use the LEDs as a support. I created a narrow channel with two larger PCBs and used some putty to hold the PCB in place. The thickness of the PCBs I used for the support is 1.6 mm, which is larger than the height of the LEDs, so it is ideal for this task. The putty keeps the PCB in place, so I can put the stencil over it and spread the solder paste over the rest of the pads. To avoid desoldering the LEDs on the front side, I glued some aluminum foil over the vials of the LEDs. I was hoping that this is enough to deflect the heat coming from the hot air gun, and luckily it was fine. The LEDs stayed on the board. So coming back to the design mistake I made, an easy way to fix it was to remove the ear of the battery holder and use it to bridge the wrong negative pad to the actual negative pad, which is the large circle on the board. Probably I could have used a thinner piece of metal or could have tried to bridge it together with solder, but this was good enough. After connecting two pads, I added a layer of Kapton tape to avoid shorting the battery holder to the now negative side of the circuit. Then I just soldered the other side of the battery holder and I was ready to test the connections. Actually, this type of battery cage is not the exact type that belongs to the board, but I had this already at home and I did not feel like ordering new ones just for the sake of this single PCB. The correct battery holder is narrower and sits better on the footprint. Finally, the only thing that was left is to program the microcontroller. I used an Arduino Uno that has a breakout board with a tiny breadboard on it. I have been using this circuit for years to program 80 tiny microcontrollers. Now, with this extra little tool, I can program SMD chips as well. I just have to make sure that the pin layout of my programming circuit matches the chip's pin layout, and I can just simply press the spring-loaded pins against the pins of the SMD component. In case of these chips, it is important to first burn the bootloader on them with the correct clock settings, and then one can upload the actual code. Otherwise, the code won't behave well if we missed burning the proper bootloader. Now the circuit is done, and as you can see, it flashes exactly as I expected it based on the breadboard circuit I assembled earlier. If you like these kind of projects, please consider supporting me by becoming a channel member. Also, don't forget to visit PCBWay's website. I hope that this video was useful to you, and I hope you learned something. See you in the next video.